Mama June, Josh Efird struggles to start afresh after Pumpkin's betrayal. It's super difficult. Josh Efird took the harsh step to close the old doors and start a new life. He doesn't want to keep waiting for Pumpkin after learning about her new relationship. The Mama June star wanted to give their marriage another chance. Josh felt divorce was just a piece of paper for him. He still had the hope of reconciling with his ex-wife. Hence, the TLC star was heartbroken when he learned she had already moved on in life. Pumpkin started dating Josh's cousin, Darren Kitchens. She informed her family about her brewing romance and received mixed reactions. June Shannon demanded that her daughter tell her ex-husband first. But Lauren wasn't sure about it. However, Josh has been completely shattered after the truth. He is taking steps to start a new life.
Will he be able to? How does he feel?
Josh Efird tried to save his marriage a lot. But he gave up when Lauren refused to show any interest. The Mama June star wanted to reconcile with his ex-wife and fix their issues in the previous episode. Hence, Josh brought some flowers for Pumpkin. Unfortunately, he learnt that his ex had already moved on with his cousin. The reality TV celeb called his mom to pick the kids up. Efird packed all his stuff and threw it in his car's trunk. He took a pen and a piece of paper to leave a final note for Pumpkin. The WeTV star wrote, "I can't believe you've been lying to me. All the years wasted just for you to go see someone else." Josh informed his wife that his mom had taken the kids with her. He admitted feeling so sick to his stomach for the first time. Josh Efird spent several years of his life with Lauren. He doesn't know how to live his life with her. The WeTV star had to take some harsh steps to move forward in life. Recently, Efird moved out of his home to live in a different area from his ex's memories. He was setting up all the stuff and trying to start a new life. The reality TV star looked exhausted as he stacked his clothes in the cupboard and cleaned the kitchen. Efird said, "Starting afresh is super difficult. It's not anything that would have imagined." He never thought he had to try living by himself and heal from everything. The Mama June star doesn't know what to do or where to go. Josh doesn't have many people to hang out with because he doesn't have many friends. He was disappointed that his ex-wife moved on so quickly after the divorce. Josh admitted, like to move on, to find companionship guess. But he didn't understand the concept of dating apps for people like him. The reality TV star is a dad of 4 kids. Josh wasn't sure if anyone would want to date a middle-aged man like him. He also wondered what he would post about. The reality star looked completely heartbroken because of the betrayal. Fans were sad to see Josh living away from his kids and having no one to talk to. They also felt that Pumpkin had wronged him, and he always deserved happiness. Keep coming back to TV season and spoilers for more tea on Josh's new life. Got it, you want the story delivered continuously with no blank lines between paragraphs. Below is part 1, novel style, in English, as a single uninterrupted block of text. Josh Efird had never imagined that the hollow echo of a front door could sound like a verdict, but tonight each click of the lock felt final, like punctuation at the end of a sentence he no longer wanted to read. He stood in the doorway for a long time, the bouquet of flowers drooping in his hand, petals beginning to bruise against his palm as if they, too, were aware of how misplaced their color was in this moment. He had rehearsed what he would say on the drive over, simple things that somehow felt monumental when promised to someone who might not be listening.
"I love you. I'm sorry. We can fix this."
Each line felt both honest and painfully inadequate. The truth was that he wanted to believe that marriage could be a thing to mend, that the years he and Lauren had built together were not suddenly eroded by a single revelation. He wanted to believe the stubborn part of him that saw divorce as just a piece of paper could coax their relationship back from the edge. But the facets of human relationships were not tools he could wield at will. They were delicate, sharp and capable of cutting deeper than he ever suspected. He had learned that the hard way. The news had not come in a dramatic confrontation. It arrived in the quiet, in the kind of blow that leaves no marks yet knocks the air from your lungs. Lauren had moved on with Darren, his cousin. The words looped through his head with the mechanical cruelty of a recording stuck on repeat. He remembered the day he'd met Darren at family barbecues, the cousin who laughed loudly and hugged easily, the kind of person your mother liked because he made everyone feel lighter. He had never imagined Darren could be the person who would walk to the other side of his life and make a home there. It felt like betrayal stitched into the seams of their family, a small, relentless rot that threatened to undo everything he had assumed about loyalty and love. Josh's first instinct had been to call someone, his mother, an old friend, anyone to tell them the story and have them anchor him. Instead, his thumb dialed his mother automatically, because in the small hours of personal collapse people reach for what is familiar. She picked up with a sleepy voice, and when he said, "Can you come get the kids?" there was no surprise in her response, only the procedural calm of someone who had raised children through storms wayward enough to require that kind of composure.
She took them, she said. Pack whatever you can. I'll be there in 20.
It felt like permission and punishment both. Permission to leave, punishment because it acknowledged that this was a departure of consequence. He found himself packing with autopilot efficiency. They were not just clothes he was shoving into suitcases. They were years, routines, the smell of a house on a Sunday morning, the scratches on the kitchen table where the kids had once carved initials with blunt butter knives. He flung shirts into the trunk until the space was a small chaos of textile and memory. He left behind small things on purpose. Pumpkin's favorite mug, the calendar with always turned to July birthdays, like markers of a life he could not fully disentangle from. Before he closed the car door, he sat for a moment, the engine off, the night pressing in. He pulled a pen and a small scrap of paper from his pocket and wrote with messy, immediate strokes, lines that were not meant to heal or to accuse but merely to give voice to the tidal anger and grief inside him.
I can't believe you've been lying to me.
All those years wasted just for you to go see someone else. The pen left a smear as he signed nothing and folded the paper into the trunk, as though folding feelings would make them less dangerous. The drive away from the house was mercifully short but felt like a journey into a life he had not consented to. The landscape passed, and with every mile he imagined the house shrinking in the rear view until it was only an outline of laughter and shared arguments, of apologies and celebrations. He wondered then with a raw, childish fear whether he would remember how to exist outside of the shape their life had made. Being a father of 4 had always given him a map, rhythms of school runs, soccer practice, scraped knees and bedtime stories. Now the map had been torn and taped back wrong, and he passed the hours like someone who had misplaced the coordinates of his own heart. He moved into a small rental on the other side of town, a place that smelled faintly of bleach and the previous tenant's incense. Setting it up was both task and therapy. He stacked dishes cautiously, as if they might shatter at the sight of his hands, and folded clothes into drawers with ritualized care. The emptiness around him made a sound he couldn't put a name to. It was the quiet space left by laughter, the hollow where a presence used to cushion the edges of the day. He had told himself that starting afresh would be simple compared to the sting of discovery, but the truth was that beginning again felt like learning a language he had once spoken fluently. Every small decision, where to put a lamp, whether to keep a terroringly small cactus, felt monumental. He scrubbed the kitchen counters until his hands smarted because the act of cleaning felt like erasing something he could not otherwise undo. Friends were scarce, not because he was disliked, but because life had a way of scattering people into their own orbits. He had never been a man who collected casual companions. His friendships had the depth and scarcity of well-worn chairs, few in number but sturdy. Now the prospect of meeting someone new, of explaining his life, divorced father of 4, middle-aged, sometimes weary, felt like stepping onto stage without a script. He considered dating apps with the tentative curiosity of someone standing at a foreign shore, not sure whether to wade or retreat. He imagined writing a profile, honest, slightly self-deprecating, raw.
Dad. Hard worker. Likes to cook. Recovering romantic.
He laughed once, a sound that surprised him by how small it was. The idea of someone wanting to share late-night pizza and the roar of his kids felt distant and absurd at once. Yet beneath the bravado there was a small, stubborn ember of hope. He knew himself well enough to know he was not done with love. He also knew, painfully, that any future would have to be built on a ground that had been scorched and tilled by disappointment. Fans on social media had responded with waves of empathy and curiosity in equal measure. Messages poured in, strangers offering condolences, others scolding, some curious. He read them in small doses, like medicine. They felt like distant hands on his shoulder, kind but incapable of solving the real, domestic ache. At night, when the house was finally still, he let the grief come in uninvited. Tears arrived not as the cinematic sobs of movies, but as a slow wearing away of the edges. He thought, repeatedly, of the life that had been and the life that might be. He did not want to be defined by the end of a chapter, but for the moment that seemed inevitable. Hope was not an all-or-nothing affair for Josh. It lived in small acts, a recipe tried and not burned, a text sent to a friend, a morning that didn't feel like a punishment. He told himself that slow healing was still healing. He permitted himself, quietly, to imagine a future where he could laugh without the bitter aftertaste of betrayal. Whether that future included Lauren or not was a question that shifted with the weather of his moods. Sometimes he believed reconciliation was possible, other nights he felt the resolve to walk away forever. But the greatest, most honest truth was this: he did not know how to stop loving someone who had been at the center of his life for so long. That love was not a chain, it was a lens through which he had learned to see the world. For now, he would try to learn to see in new light. He would carry his children's drawings on the fridge like the most sacred relics and let each small, ordinary day be the patient work of rebuilding. The first morning in the new house greeted Josh with a silence so complete that it felt unnatural, as if sound itself had decided to avoid him. He woke up before dawn, not because he wanted to, but because his body had been trained for years to the rhythm of children knocking on his bedroom door or Pumpkin calling from the kitchen. Now, there was no call, no knock, no simple noise. It was just him and the thud of his heartbeat, steady but somehow lonely. The mattress he had dragged into the bedroom the night before still held the scent of cardboard and dust. He didn't have sheets yet, only a blanket that felt too thin even though the weather was warm. He stared at the cracked ceiling, trying to convince himself that waking up alone was normal. Something he could get used to. But the truth was cruel. His mind went immediately to Pumpkin. He wondered if she had woken up already. If she had made coffee. If Darren had stayed over. That thought hit him like a blow to the ribs. Imagining another man in the space that had once belonged to him felt like being ripped open all over again. Anger rose inside him, sharp and sudden, before collapsing into exhaustion. It was too early to be angry. Too early to feel anything. He sat up, rubbing his face with both hands, trying to will the day into something that didn't feel like punishment. He walked to the mirror in the corner of the room, the one he had leaned against the wall last night. His reflection looked unfamiliar, eyes swollen from lack of sleep, jaw tight from trying not to cry, shoulders heavy with the weight of everything he hadn't said. "You gotta get it together," he muttered to himself, though even he didn't believe the words. In the kitchen, he made coffee for the first time in a house that wasn't a home. The machine was old, borrowed from his mother, and it sputtered like it resented being used so early. He poured the bitter drink into a chipped mug and leaned against the counter, staring at the blank wall. He imagined Pumpkin standing across from him, the way she used to drink her coffee with too much sugar and laugh when he teased her for it. He imagined the kids running in circles, arguing about cereal. 1,000 moments that once annoyed him now stabbed him with nostalgia. He missed the chaos. He missed the noise. He missed belonging somewhere. The silence pressed in around him until he couldn't stand it anymore. He grabbed his keys and stepped outside, locking the door behind him even though there was nothing inside worth stealing. The neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet. No children playing outside, no cars starting, no neighbors chatting. Just the distant hum of a highway and the chirping of early birds. He walked aimlessly, unsure where he wanted to go. The gas station at the corner felt like the only place awake at this hour, so he stopped there. When he entered, the smell of fried food and cheap coffee wrapped around him, oddly comforting. The cashier nodded at him politely, not recognizing him, not knowing his story. That anonymity felt like a small mercy. Josh bought a pack of gum he didn't really want and stepped back outside, feeling strangely lighter. At least here, no one looked at him with pity. No one whispered. No one knew he was the man whose wife had chosen another. As he walked back, his phone buzzed. His heart tightened. A message from Pumpkin, maybe? Something explaining? Apologizing? But when he pulled it out, the screen showed a message from his mom. "Kids are good. Don't worry. Call when you can." Relief mixed with guilt. He should have been the one handling morning routines. He should have been there. But he wasn't. And that truth gnawed at him. Back in the house, the heaviness settled again, but now it felt less suffocating. He sat on the floor, because he had no couch yet, and opened his phone. Social media notifications blinked like small, insistent reminders of the world. Outside his heartbreak. Messages from fans, from strangers, from people who knew him only through edited TV moments. Some messages were comforting, others curious, a few angry on his behalf. He read them slowly, not sure whether they helped. Message from a man named Eric stood out. "Going through the same, brother. It gets better. One day at a time." Josh stared at the message longer than he expected. Not because the words were profound, because they were simple, honest, real. He typed back a small thanks, before putting the phone down. He didn't want to fall apart again. Not today. He spent the rest of the morning unpacking. Each box felt like a chapter he didn't want to read but had to. Photos he didn't know whether to keep. Clothes that still carried pumpkins. Josh woke the next day with a stiff neck and a dull ache spreading across his back, the kind that came from sleeping against a wall instead of a bed. For a moment he didn't remember where he was. The dim yellow light from the cheap lamp was still glowing, and the room looked unfamiliar in the half-dark. Then everything rushed back at once. The separation, Pumpkin's message, the empty house, the weight inside his chest. He rubbed his eyes and pushed himself to his feet slowly, his joints protesting with every movement. The silence of the house greeted him again, a silence that didn't feel peaceful but hollow, like the house itself was waiting for someone who would never return. He walked to the bathroom and splashed water on his face, avoiding his reflection in the mirror because he wasn't ready to confront the tired, heartbroken man staring back. He changed his shirt, grabbed his keys, and stepped outside just to breathe. The morning smelled of dew and concrete, the sunlight weak and pale as if the day wasn't fully committed to beginning yet. Josh walked down the driveway, hands in his pockets, staring at the street that connected to a world he wasn't ready to face. He wanted to see his kids. He needed to. But he knew showing up like this, broken, exhausted, would only confuse them. And Pumpkin would have something to say about it. She always did. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out quickly, heart jumping. It wasn't Pumpkin this time. It was his mom again. Kids asking about you. Maybe video call later. Josh exhaled slowly, a mixture of relief and longing tightening his chest. Yeah, later, he typed. Before he could put the phone away, another message arrived. This time from someone unexpected. June. Heard what happened. You okay? For a moment he didn't know how to respond. June wasn't someone he went to for comfort, but the fact that she reached out at all meant something. Trying, he wrote back, the same word he had sent to Alana. It felt like the only answer he had left these days. We've all been worried. Don't shut us out, June replied, a surprisingly gentle message coming from her. Josh stared at it, unsure what to say. Instead of responding, he started walking again. The streets were waking up now, cars humming, birds chirping, neighbors heading out with coffee cups in hand. Josh wondered if they looked at him and could tell his life had fallen apart. Probably not. Heartbreak didn't leave visible bruises. It just hollowed you out from the inside. After wandering for nearly half an hour, he found himself standing in front of a small park. Empty swings swayed in the breeze, creaking in a rhythm that reminded him too much of afternoons at home when the kids ran around until their cheeks turned red. He sat on a bench and buried his face in his hands. He missed them so painfully that his chest physically ached. He missed the noise, the chaos, the purpose they gave him. He missed the feeling of coming home to something. Someone. His thoughts drifted to Pumpkin again, uninvited. Was she awake by now? Was she making breakfast? Was Darren still around? Was she laughing, feeling lighter now that he was gone? The questions stabbed him like needles, each one sharper than the last. He shut his eyes tight and forced himself to breathe. He didn't want to cry in public. Not here. Not like this. After a while, he stood and walked back home, feeling even heavier than before. When he stepped inside, the emptiness greeted him once again. He needed noise. He needed distraction. So he grabbed a few boxes and began unpacking with new urgency, almost angrily, throwing items into drawers just to keep his hands busy. The more he unpacked, the faster his breathing became. He didn't realize he was shaking until he dropped a plate and it shattered on the floor, the sound echoing sharp and sudden through the house. Josh froze, staring at the broken pieces scattered around his feet. Something inside him cracked then, louder than the plate. He sank down to the floor, resting his back against a cabinet, and finally let the tears come. They weren't silent this time. His shoulders shook with the force of it, the bottled pain pouring out in waves. He didn't try to stop it. He couldn't. Minutes passed, maybe longer, before his sobs quieted into soft, broken breaths. He wiped his face with the back of his hand and forced himself to stand. Carefully, he cleaned up the shards, each piece feeling like a fragment of the life he once had. When he was done, he sat on the counter and stared at the blank wall again. He needed help. He needed someone to talk to. But everyone he thought of felt too close to Pumpkin, too close to the hurt. He opened his phone and scrolled through his contacts. His thumb hovered over a name, an old friend he hadn't spoken to in years. Someone not connected to the drama. Someone safe. After a long pause, he pressed call. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, then clicked.
Josh.
The familiar voice on the other end surprised him.
He swallowed hard. Yeah. Hey man. It's been a while, his friend said gently. You okay?
The question hit harder than he expected. Josh's voice cracked.
No. Not really.
Talk to me, the friend said softly. And Josh did. For the first time since everything fell apart, he let the words spill out freely.
He talked about Pumpkin. About Darren. About the kids. About the silence. About the empty house.
His friend listened without interrupting, without judging, without rushing him. When Josh finally stopped, breathing uneven, his friend spoke quietly.
You're going to get through this. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But you will. And I'm here. You're not alone.
A lump formed in Josh's throat again, but this time the tears didn't come from pain, they came from relief.